Let's talk about Green Pond, since it is something that the council just voted on another grant, and about the continued growth of that project. Remind people where Green Pond came from and how it's grown and how it's been a big deal here.
Well, the big thing is when Tommy Dunn got elected, and one of the things he ran on was he stated that there was Lake Hartwell was being underutilized, and the public didn't have a lot of access to it, and it was probably one of the greatest resources Anderson County had, and we needed to make people aware of it, and we needed to start doing development out there. So there had been some embryonic ideas about Green Pond, so we talked to Mr. Dunn, and he said, go. Knowing full well that we didn't have money for total build-out, but we did have PCB money.
Remind people where that came from, if somebody doesn't know.
PCB money comes from when Sangamo plant up in Pickens put all the PCBs in Lake Hartwell. Then there was a huge lawsuit, and part of that settlement was to restore fisheries in the polluted area. And so we were successful to get some of that money. And then when we found out, really the county attorney, Leon Harmon, found out that there was a little bit more money left, we went down there and got the money that was left. And then we were able to get a sports fishers grant, which is a federal grant.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and they're very hard to get, and we got one. And we never expected to get the second one, but we got the second one, and I know it's because DNR knows that we will do what we say, and they have seen the results of that turning into a world-class fishery. And when we got the third sports fishers grant, that's recent, we just approved this Tuesday. And so that's another $1 million. And so we're going to really make the dock nicer, and we're going to put some more amenities out there, and hopefully in the winter we can begin on the amphitheater. So the evolution of Green Pond has been a slow progression, but we're doing it, and we're trying to use as much as possible other people's money. And if you think of Green Pond right now, which, you know, you can go out there just to go look. You know, you can go sit on that dock and fish.
And the beach out there?
You can go out there if you want to, you know, people swim out there. And so you can just go sit up on the high hill and look at the lake. You don't have to go fishing, okay? It's for all kinds of different things. And there's a lot of nice places to picnic up there. But if you think about where we are right now, what are we doing to bring in tourists? Well, you're not bringing them in with Clemson football games, which was always a steady source of revenue, accommodations tax money for Anderson County. So really, the only thing we have right now pulling in tourists are the fishing tournaments that we're having on Lake Hartwell. Not last weekend, but the weekend before last, we had 700 room nights in our area. Now, that was some hotels, but it was also some Airbnbs, and it was also some people camping. So that is bringing people in when an accommodations tax is a tax on hotels in places where people stay. So the only reason you pay that tax is if you're staying at a hotel or a rental or something like that. So, but in addition to that, last Tuesday, council also gave permission for us to proceed with the Shores of Asbury development. And the Shores of Asbury development, really, well, you can look at Green Pond and see Asbury, and you can be at Asbury and see Green Pond. But that's going to be a huge development, and again, we're almost there. We'll have it in place next spring because council voted to allow us to move ahead. But you're going to have yurts for those who can't go to Tibet.
Tell people what a yurt is.
Yurt is a bunch of, and they won't be using hides, but in Tibet it's a bunch of hides put together around a structure. So you'll be able to stay in a yurt. They're going to have ADA accessible tree houses. They're going to have a floating water park. They're going to have a few cabins, and they're going to have campground areas, and they're going to have a little snack area, little tiny restaurant. I'm at full tilt, and a whole host of activities going on at Asbury Park. So we're really excited about that. So not only do we have Green Pond, but we've got the Shores of Asbury. And the good thing about the Shores of Asbury, we're not developing that park. Private enterprise is developing that park, but we will, because we are leasing that property from the Corps of Engineers. We will receive income from those people using that land because they will be paying us fees. for the use of that land. So
It's a floating water park.
a floating water park. So that's another step in the right direction of bringing tourism to Lake Hartwell. Plus, we've also been working with a Big Water Marina, which is a huge anchor in the big water down there with the Boggs brothers, and we've been helping them a little bit. They don't need much help, but that's turning into something very huge and spectacular, and I know that they're probably going to make it even more spectacular in the next 8 to 12 months. I know they are. And then after that, that could become a total resort also. So, I mean, you've got all of that going on in Lake Hartwell. So we're real happy about that. And we think the citizens are going to enjoy it. And we think people are going to come here for vacation, and we're going to enjoy their money.
It looks like the county may be potentially taking over another abandoned.
We're looking at 2 other ones because the core is they're closing parks down. Asbury Park was closed. And so we're looking very hard at taking over 2 other parks so the public can have access to that. Those parks are more homegrown parks, you know what I'm saying? We use those parks, and we want to keep them open, and we don't want them closed. So we're looking very carefully at that.
And the economic impact of Green Pond has been in the $20 to $60 million.
It's been millions of dollars from people coming here. The exposure has been wonderful. And, we've got some big fishing tournaments coming up here real quick. And you can have a fishing tournament out there, and you can follow all COVID safety precautions. And it's just wonderful. And we just completed a lot of work out there. Increased handicapped access for people, and a whole lot of things that we've done out there. So we're always got something going there. And this grant, we want to use it real quick because we're going to make the dock even more spectacular because we've got some huge tournaments coming up, and we want to be ready for those.
And then Dolly Cooper Park is being expanded.
Oh, and Councilman Davis is one of his dreams. We now have that walking path beside the Saluda River, which is beautiful. And now, and maybe even today, and today is Thursday, that we have finished reviewing the bids to really have a first-class baseball, softball field at Dolly Cooper Park. And also, thanks to the generosity of Duke Energy, who gave us a $50,000 grant, we're going to be able to put another kayak launch, but it's not going to be too far from the other kayak launch. So you could actually go from one launch to the other launch and stay in Dolly Cooper. So if you just wanted to inner tube down the river, you wouldn't have to go a zillion miles and have no place to get out. But also couple this with the fact that the county has purchased that land. Thank Representative Westcox and Councilman Davis for noticing different pots of funds, state funds, and things like that allowed us to buy that land. And so eventually we'll have that thing running all the way from Powdersville down to the dam at Piedmont. And there's a lot of development activity going on in Piedmont. There's even been some discussion, and I don't know whether it's going to come to fruition, about a private company putting a whitewater area there. Not in the river, but beside the river, so you could actually go really whitewater rafting near the Saluda River. So a lot of good things. The county's efforts over the last 12 years to make people aware of the Saluda River and what's there. So we're finally getting some really good traction on Dolly Cooper, and it's been a long time coming. We've been doing studies and meeting with the public and trying to get things done. We have the the football field up there that's been up there. I think this will be the 3rd year, and that gets heavy use. So we're trying to respond to the rapid growth in the Powdersville area to take care of that. And it's outstripping us, but we're trying to catch up.
And people have forgotten about the Saluda River, sort of. I mean, it's a resource.
People had forgotten about rivers all over the country. Greenville forgot about the Reedy River. Columbia forgot about the Congaree River. Everybody forgot about the rivers until one person said, "Hey, this is kind of nice being on the river." And then it became a thing. Let's develop our river district. Asheville on the French Broad, the River Arts District. So it's a great resource, and we want to take advantage of it.
Another thing, this past week they passed another series of economic incentive packages for businesses that are expanding or come here. Remind people why that's important to both our economy now and the future to have those kind of incentives built in.
I reckon our employment rate last month was 5.6. We were down under 2%. The economy is still struggling, but in economic development terms, we are booming. We did one that's going to have 150 jobs, and they pay almost $40 an hour. And that's happening. And we worked on a couple more. You put those two together, that's 1,000 jobs. That's a whole lot of jobs that aren't here yet. And there's some other big things in the works. And these are quality jobs that people are looking for. We had our second drive-in, drive-up job fair. The first one we had 280 people, and we had to cut it off at 280. We had the second one today, so you just go out to the Civic Center, get in a line, all the companies are there, and you just go up there and they'll talk to you and you fill out an application so you can get a job. So there are plenty of jobs to be had in Anderson County, a whole lot of jobs. People are begging for people to work.
Good
begging.
jobs.
Good jobs, not junk jobs, career jobs. And since a lot of our companies are new and expanding beyond their initial footprint, if you get in one of these places and you work, there's no reason you can't go, there's opportunity to move up. You won't be coming into a stodgy institution, we've been here. No, this is fresh, this is new. And the people are continuing to pour into Anderson County. I mean,
from all over the place.
From all over the place. I was in Honeypath, South Carolina last week, and there's a place down there which is a local treasure. It's called the Little Biscuit Barn, and I just love it. But it's the little biscuit barn. So I was sitting at the table eating my biscuit, and there were 8 people sitting around the big table, the only big table there. And every one of those people were not from Honeypath. Every one of those people were from either New York, Ohio, and they were in Honeypath where they lived, and they were participating in every activity that you could in Honeypath, from church work to sitting with the elderly. So they're on the way.
Well, and speaking about the growth, I'll jump ahead and come back to something else, but the census, we're among the top in the state, but we're still behind 2010 in our percentages. We've got a little bit of time left. Why is that critical that we get everybody reported?
Every human being that you can count means money to Anderson County from the federal government, from the state government. It also puts you in a different demographic situation. It gives you more power and the ability to do more things because you're not one of the weak little sisters. And so it is vitally important. And COVID has really done a number on the census. But we have worked with several groups to get into every neighborhood and to talk to people and get as much participation as we can. We've supported some census outreach programs. We've just worked with everybody we could to try to get that count as accurate as possible.
That's very critical, though, even just in terms of representation.
It's critical, and not to beat a dead horse like I said last time, but it's in the original Constitution. Every 10 years you shall have a census.
Let's talk about some of the updates on some other things. County Courthouse Square property has been kind of in a holding pattern for a while.
We had a meeting on that, and we're still in, and that's another COVID-related thing because just can't get all those people in a room. So it's still moving, but slowly.
Is there a plan? I mean, is there some, or is it still being developed?
Well, there's several plans, but none that we've settled on because we're fixing to have an explosion of growth in downtown Anderson. I mean, it's a fact. As a matter of fact, some properties have already been bought. New entities are going to be moving into the downtown area. And we know that, and the developer knows that. So as this happens, it kind of changes things. Like the Meeting Place, which was an institution in Anderson, and then it was Giles before that. That property's been sold. It's not going to be a restaurant. It's going to be something else. So, I mean, in the next year, downtown Anderson is going to be almost completely revamped.
So we're not going to put a Whole Foods back there right now.
We're not putting Whole Foods back
Trader
there.
Joe's.
No, none of that's going back there.
Okay. The county also set up satellite locations for absentee voting. It seems to attract a lot of voters. Whose idea was that?
The people that were pushing it very strongly, Councilman Jimmy Davis and Representative Wes Cox, were pushing that mightily, and especially Jimmy Davis and Wes Cox because of Powdersville. And so we set up satellite stations in Powdersville, the Voter Registration Election Commission, okay? And so you're able to vote in Powdersville. They're lined up. Every day this week people have been lined up to vote. And so you could vote downtown, but we also are having voting at the Civic Center. And I was at the Civic Center this morning, and the doors open at 8:30, and there were already people lined up way before 8:30. So at the Civic Center today, you could vote, you could get a job, and if you were a kind person, you could donate a coat or sweater to the Anderson County Sheriff's Department, who is having a coat drive out there. So between 8 and around 12:30, the Civic Center had a lot of stuff going on.
Anything else going on at the Civic Center?
Well, that, and we're also working with the company who's going to rent the whole space for a couple of weeks to make a new product that they have to stretch out for the Defense Department. So it is in constant use every day. We're just not having concerts and tournaments and things like that.
Back to the voter thing, it'd be the first time for a general election we've used the new voting machines. I think everything's ready to go on that.
I think they are ready to go. Our IT department's been down there, had a representative down there just about the whole time, and we also help the election commission by hauling the machines out for them and doing things like that. But I think it's going to go smoothly. I think they've done everything known to mankind to make it go smoothly. But I think with the number of people that are voting now, that's going to take some of the pressure off on election day. Because I'm telling you, they're voting in Belton at the Armory, lined up. And these lines don't, here, we finish the line's constant. So people are turning out in droves to vote.
The other thing that seems to be showing up on all the county council meeting agendas are zoning issues. There's always some proposal for an agenda at every council meeting. What is the county doing to meet the challenges of all the zoning requests?
Well, several things that we've done on land use. Part of the county zone, that kind of handles to a degree itself. Because the people in Anderson County who decided to have their area zoned said what they wanted that area to be. And so somebody can come in and make a request to change that, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. But what you're seeing is extreme pressure in the Powdersville area that is outstripping the capacity of the volunteer fire departments and the schools and all of those services up there, because people are coming in, they're flocking in like mad. So one of the things the council's already done is given the planning commission the tools to, hey, when you come in to do a project, you have sewer check, did you do this, did you do this, did you do this? And you can check on that, and then the staff will say, yes, they meet all the criteria. But council added another layer where the planning commissioners could say, yes, you did all this, but no, it doesn't fit the community, it doesn't. But it's still going crazy, and we're having all of these developers. We've had about 7 for the last 6 years, but now you're getting more people coming in and more people coming in, and so people want some peace and quiet. People in Powdersville said we'd still like to retain what we have of a rural area. So that's what the struggle is, and we knew the struggle was coming. And with Clemson, essentially the city of Clemson officially saying, we don't want anything else. There's no room for anything else. So that pressure is now coming towards Pendleton area, and it's going to come all the way down 85. I mean, you've got people looking to develop the old Sally Rose house, the Abney house right there. That's active right now as we speak. New housing development right above the development that's already there. You just got people running around everywhere.
And we're in an unusual position in that our county council chairman is a developer and a builder, so it's hard to pull anything over his eyes if somebody comes in and...
No, he knows who's a quality builder and who's not a quality builder, and he knows how much building materials cost. Now, he's pretty savvy on that and about everything else, too.
I know I ask you this every month, but I know COVID delayed it, but what about the sewer project with Pendleton and Clemson that we've been working on?
Oh, as a matter of fact, we talked about that today. We're trying to work out some differences between Clemson and Pendleton and Anderson County, and I think we're pretty close to all coming into an agreement on who's what's territory and who's this. And I know Pendleton wants to retain the right to annex, and I want them to retain the right to annex. We were instrumental in helping them double the size of the city limits. So those are the things that we're working through. It's not anything, it's the thing that makes more sense than anything else in the world for us to do that.
And it's key to Pendleton's growth to be able to have that capacity.
And that growth is coming. That growth is coming.
The farmers market's wrapping up another season. Again, I guess it's going to finish okay considering the thing. Will there be a holiday market this year?
Nope. Miss Sharon Nicometto, who runs the farmers market and the holiday market and about 85 other things. That's her call, and she has done a very good job of making the farmers market COVID safe. But she doesn't believe it would be safe to have that holiday market, and so we won't be doing that, and I defer to her judgment because she does a fabulous job running that area.
Are there any other victims? Will there be a Christmas parade this year, Veterans Parade?
No, we're not in charge of the Christmas parade,
Right.
and we're not in charge of the Veterans Parade, but I think the Veterans Parade is going to be canceled.
Right.
And I think you have a lot of older veterans, and I don't think they want to risk their health.
Right. And the Christmas parade, I guess, is still up in the air. Some communities are thinking, since it's outdoors, but they're worried about people on floats. So
Yeah, but then you worry about that, and then you worry about, I mean, are you going to have any bands participate?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's not our call, that's a city call.
Right.
But that's a tough one right there.
What's the latest you're hearing from Paul's? I know they went through a lot, but they're open and...
Well, Paws is doing good, and if you ride out by there, right beside Paws, you will see a whole lot of dirt being moved, thanks to a certain foundation who always wants to remain nameless. The large check that they gave us, we're getting ready, well, we're doing it, we're building the dog park out there right now, but it's beginning to look more like a dog park than just somebody out there pushing dirt around in a bulldozer.
And you think by next year they'll have it done?
I hope so. I hope so.
All right, as we record this interview, there are 49 days, that's 7 weeks till Thanksgiving, which means that weekend is about 40 days away. Is the county tree going to light up that weekend before Thanksgiving?
Absolutely.
And so it'll stay.
And it'll be turned off Monday morning.
After the Thanksgiving weekend.
Yes.
And that's for families visiting to come
That's
in.
for families visiting, and I know some people say, well, it takes away. Well, it doesn't take away, because if those families coming in for Thanksgiving, we want them to see that tree, and we want their families to bring them down to see that tree and to brag about their county. And so I just think that's important.
Especially this year.
Especially this year.
The original tree was 28 feet tall, and last year, I think thanks to the fertilizer, it topped about 40 feet. Will it grow another 5 feet this year?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it will, because it's been in specially controlled conditions to allow maximum growth.
And are there any other things that are still challenging based for COVID for the county to continue as time goes on with all this?
No, we're trying to practice all the safety measures that we can. And like on this floor, on the second floor, we've all had it. This is the safest place you can be. But the county never closed one day. We never missed a bit of work. It might have taken us that first week to work out some real estate things and things like that. But I guess everybody's getting in the groove. And another thing that you're finding out, like it used to be at the Register of Deeds, it would have a lot of people in there doing things. But because we learned how to do this, they learned how to do it. A lot of them are doing it remotely now, so the actual physical traffic isn't there. A whole lot of people are doing meetings by different methods, and a whole lot of people are doing different activities remotely that they didn't do in the past. So I think that trend will continue.
Are there any other big announcements coming?
Oh, there's a lot of big announcements coming, but they're still in the embryonic
Nothing
stage.
you can talk about?
Yeah.
Before the end of the year?
If we can have 2 more meetings, yes. And I'm talking about nice things. I mean, some of the things that you hear about, and we touched on briefly, about companies bringing things back to the United States, we're benefiting from that. And again, just to remind everybody, we have an economy that's a little different. We're not the biggest place in the world, but we're not the smallest place in the world. But we make a lot of things in Anderson County that are unique and special. I passed today 4 of those big earth mover tires that we make right here in Anderson County. 4 tires on a big truck, because that's all you can put in there. So we make things that, to a degree, in a lot of areas, are recession-proof, and we hope that continues. And as always, the County Council supports existing industry and new industry coming in, but some very exciting things, and even some things that are benefiting from COVID, which is not good, but it's services that need to be provided.